Welcome back. Have you ever paused when opening a link or even browsing to something like your bank account and worried, what if something goes wrong? What if I get hacked? Or have you ever wanted a clean Linux desktop setup just for one task and then you want it to be gone like it never happened? That's what Kasm is for. And I've talked about this more than once in my previous videos. So in this video, I'm going to show you Kasm in action first, and then I'll take you through the installation process using Docker Compose so you can get it running in your home lab. So what is Kasm exactly? So Kasm Workspaces is a platform that streams containerized apps and even full desktop environments right into your browser. Think of it like this. Instead of spinning up a whole VM just to test something, you launch a workspace like Chrome, Firefox, Ubuntu, or whatever. You use it, and when you close it, it's completely gone. And that disposable nature is the whole point of it. It's fast, clean, and very useful. So let me show you. So let me take you through some demos. Here's Kasm running. You log in and you get a catalog of workspaces. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch Chrome. And as you can see, I can choose to launch Chrome right in this window, or I can open it in another tab. But just like that, with a couple clicks, I have a Chrome session that's running in a web browser. It's not running on my machine. It's running on a server inside a container on my home lab. And I'm just streaming the UI in the browser. So if I wanted to open something questionable, I do it here. Or you can imagine if I wanted to go to a bank account where I don't risk mixing other data on my machine with my banking stuff, I can do it right here, and then it's disposed of when I'm done. And that's the key part. When I'm done, I just close the session and it's gone. No leftover browser state, no cached junk. So let's try another demo. We'll go back to the screen here and open Ubuntu. And here you go. This is a full Linux desktop in a browser tab running on the Kasm server. So if I need a quick Linux environment to run a tool, test a script, even doing some coding, I can open up VS Code in this. I could clone a Git repository, do some work, let my AI agents handle the coding for me. And then when it's done, I can just dispose of it and that's it. I don't need to remote into a VM or keep a bunch of VMs around just in case. I just launch this, use it, and get rid of it. And the obvious question when you start using Kasm, like disposable is very cool, but what if I want to persist some stuff? With Kasm, you can do both. You can keep it disposable, or you can enable persistent profiles so your settings and files stick between sessions. This ends up being the sweet spot, disposable compute, but with convenience when you want it. Now, I want to be clear when it comes to persistent profiles. It'll persist your user data. So think of it as you might be persisting bookmarks, or if you're using an Ubuntu desktop, it's going to persist what's in the home directory. If you start to do things like install applications or even run like apt update, those changes will not persist. For that, you actually need to set up a different workspace and potentially create a custom workspace for your use case, which I'm not going to go into in this demo. So I personally have found Kasm to be that sweet spot between needing a full VM where I really need to be able to interact with the operating system, make changes, etc., and when I want something very lightweight where I can throw it away or just persist a little bit of state to go back and use it later. Where I use it typically is mostly for the browser usage. I'll persist my bookmarks and other stuff. And then if I need to open a link I'm not sure about, or I want, complete confidence that when I go to a website that I'm doing it on a completely clean machine, that's what I use Kasm for. Occasionally, I'll open up the Ubuntu desktop as well. And like I said, I can just open up VS Code, clone my local Git repository and do some work on it while I use my machine for something else. But then when I do need like an actual full VM, and like I said, if I need to make changes to an operating system or I want a particular configuration, I do go back to like a full VM running on my Proxmox server. So Kasm really fills a great sweet spot there. All right, let's get it set up. All right, so here is my Proxmox dashboard, and we're just gonna go create a new VM to use for our Kasm installation. Actually, here you can see I already have it running, and this is the one I use for my home use. But what we'll do is we'll create a new one and set it up from scratch. And I'll just call it Kasm 2. And for the image, I'm just going to use Ubuntu server. That is fine. And I'll increase the disk a little bit. I'm not planning on putting a lot on this, so don't need a huge disk. For CPUs, I will just give it 8 cores. Mind you, this is on a big old slow server, so 8 is actually not that much. And for memory, we'll give it this. All right, so we'll get this started. And what we'll do is I will go get Ubuntu server set up, and we'll come back when that's all done. Now that we have the server set up, let's install Kasm. And you can see my server's done. And installing this is literally as easy as going to their website and following the directions. And the directions are dead simple. So you want to come over here. You can go to resources, and we're going to be working with the community edition. And just come down to the bottom, and let's find it. See if I can find it. There you go, documentation. And it's going to open another window and walk you through all of this. We're going to keep it simple and show you how to do a single server installation. And all you need to do is run this set of commands right here. That's it. So they do have the offline install. I'll be honest, I have not tried this, but it looks like it just pre-downloads everything. But we will just do the standard install. So I will just copy this, and then we'll get the window over to that machine. Here we go. All right, and we will just paste in the command right from the website. It wouldn't surprise, oh yeah, I was like, you probably need sudo. Yep, so we'll put this in, and we'll let it do its thing. All right, it is all done. Took a little while, but it was that simple. Run one script, and it takes care of everything. Now, in front of us are the default UI credentials you will need. I highly suggest writing them down because you're not going to be able to get them back after seeing them here. And I actually did misplace my admin credentials on one of my Kasm instances once. And there is a way to reset it by going into the database, but it's non-trivial. I recommend just saving them. So what we'll do is, now that this is all set, we will kind of go back to the browser and let's take a look at the website. All right, so we will log in. And there we go. So what we'll do is we'll start by logging in using the admin account, because that is where you configure workspaces and everything else. And then I'll show you what it looks like to log in with a user account. All right, and here we go. This is the admin console. And you can see up here, you can toggle between the admin view and the workspaces. Now, we haven't set up any workspaces at this point, so let's go ahead and do that. And on the left side here, what you can do is just go down, click on Workspaces. And you can see you don't have any. You can go ahead and add one. And now this is where you set up a custom workspace. We're not going to go through that today. What we're going to do is just use the registry of available workspaces. These are already predefined by Kasm, so you can just go ahead and click the ones you want and set them up. So I will install Chrome. I will do, why not? We'll do Firefox. And by the way, you can see there's all kinds of different applications on here. There's Slack, Signal, and then there's entire distribution. So if you want to do, we'll just do at Ubuntu, since I talked about that as well in the beginning. And why not VS Code? So we install all these. These get downloaded in the background and installed, and we come over here and you can see these are in the process of installing. While we're working on that, let me come over and show you something else. Obviously here on the left, you can see any active sessions that are happening. So if you have another user logged in and they're running sessions, you'll see that here. You can go through a bunch of, there's basically maintenance stuff here. But the important thing is under access management, take a look at users. And this is where you can add other normal users or admin users if you want. But this is also where you can control which workspaces a user gets access to. Now, you remember we just went through and added 4 workspaces quickly. And if we go into this default user and click edit, obviously there's a bunch of parameters here you can add. But interestingly enough, you can go to workspaces and you can see by default, this user can use any of the workspaces we configured. You could go ahead and customize this for the user or for entire groups, right? If you want to make a particular group that only has a certain set of workspaces, you can start to divide things up that way. I guess if you have a more complicated configuration. But I think for a home lab environment, I've just stuck with a couple users for the folks in the house and let them get at everything. So let's see if these are done installing. Okay, it looks like Chrome is done. So what we'll do is we'll just let these finish up and then we'll go over to the user view and see what it looks like. So after those workspaces installed, you can either click the tab to go over to the normal view, or what I did is I just logged out and logged in as a normal user. And you can see while I was at it, I threw a couple other workspaces there. So this is what the user view looks like, and this is where the user can pick to open up one of these workspaces. So let me just show you what this looks like. We saw this earlier in the demo, but right, if you jump Firefox, you'd be like, yep, I'm going to open it in a new tab. So there you go. And then so if we go back to the workspaces view, as the user, you can see you have a Firefox session running. You can pause it, stop it, whatever you want to do. And then if you delete it, this is where all your state is gone. So we'll just go ahead and delete that. So one other thing I want to show you is how to enable persistent profiles. And so this is basically how you can store user data between sessions. So with the demonstrations we just gave you, if you say bookmark something in your Chrome tab, or in Ubuntu, if you wrote something to your home directory, like that's just gone when you get rid of the session. So there is a way to persist some data across sessions. And like I said, this is mainly just user data. And so what we're going to do is you need to go log back into your Kasm host and first create a directory where you want that local data to be stored. And then you need to set a couple permissions on those directories. So I'll show you what that looks like. So basically, here's what you need to do. We'll just put the directory in MNT Kasm profiles, and then you set this to 1000 as the user and group, and Shimada to 700. It's that simple. So then once you've created the path for the profiles, you need to come back to the admin UI. And what you need to do is configure the persistent profile path for each workspace. So this isn't some global setting. You need to go workspace by workspace and configure it. So what we'll do is I'll go into my workspaces. We'll pick Chrome as an example. And we'll go in and we'll edit it. And if you come down here, here is the persistent profile path. Now, what I recommend doing is there's actually variables that you can put into the path that will get filled out that allows the data to be segmented by both user and the image. So here's what we'll put in as an example. So for Chrome, we'll set it to the directory we created, and then a subdirectory by user, and then by image. So this would allow the same user to have different data for all the different images, and we'll just click save. All right, so now that persistent profiles are enabled, let me show you what that looks like. And I know I showed you how to set it up for Chrome. I actually went to a slightly different setup, and I'm going to show you what this looks like on Ubuntu desktop, but it's basically the same. So first, let me show you, well, I could show you how it doesn't work, but that'll take a long time. What I'll do is once you enable it on a particular workspace, you will get this dropdown when you go to launch it. And basically you can choose to enable the persistent profile or not. In this case, I will say enabled, and we'll launch the session. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a terminal, and I'm going to touch a file. Now, you would expect in the normal behavior that once I delete this session, it would be gone. But I will show you how it persists across. So here we go. I will just, here we go, simple home directory. I will just touch a file named foo. That's it. And there you can see it. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to go back here, and I'm not even going to stop this workspace. I'm going to delete it. So, and like this makes sense, right? Because if you think about, we created a directory where this state is stored, and that state will persist across this session even after it's gone. Because remember, this is basically running in a container. So we'll delete that. And I'll just open another one. And yes, with persistent profile enabled, we will open a new tab. And if everything works as it should, we will see that file there. And let's take a look. And there it is. There is our foo file, and you can see it persisted between sessions. So you can imagine doing that with like bookmarks or anything else in these workspaces. So, you know, there's a whole bunch to look at in Kasm and setting it up, but Outside of the normal setup, I think understanding persistent profiles is probably the next, most important thing to figure out in your Chasm setup. So what we're going to do is we'll wrap it up here and leave it as a super quick introduction to Chasm. As you can see, personally, I find it very useful for just creating environments that are easily disposable. Installation is a breeze, and your basic setup is a breeze as well. So let me know if you're using it and how it's helpful for you down in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.